occasionally there's a wine so steeped in history that when you taste it in a very real sense, you can actually taste the past. And Van de Constance, or Constantia, is one of those very rare wines. It has a story that spans centuries, and it involves fame and disease and death and eventual rebirth. And it's a story that begins here in Company Gardens, the birthplace of South African wine. Now a public park in the centre of Cape Town, it was once a farm irrigated by the natural springs that rise on Table Mountain. The first European settlers left their wives and families at home, but they did bring their vines, and it was here in 1655 where the first vines were planted. There's a famous diary entry 4 years later that says, "Today, praise be to God, for the first wines were made from Cape grapes." In 1679, Simon van der Stel, commander of the Cape Colony, set about creating the first vineyard in South Africa. He called it Constantia. Van der Stel created a wine that for the next 200 years was one of the most sought after in the world. In the 19th century, a combination of fashion, diseases and taxation killed off what had been the most famous sweet wine in the world. And for more than 100 years, Van de Constance existed as nothing more than a memory. Then in 1986, it was recreated, but it emerged into a very different South Africa. This wasn't a country that didn't want to sell wine to the rest of the world. It was a country that couldn't. UN sanctions and the anti-apartheid movement largely saw the world shun South African wine. It wasn't until the first democratic elections in 1994 that there was a serious market for Van de Constance again. History shapes all wines to a degree, but there can't be many that are as entwined with the story of a country as Van de Constance is with South Africa. I'm incredibly excited to come along to the famous wine region of Constantia, where this wine's had a remarkable revival. What I'm less excited about, and you might be wondering, is why I have to come here at 4 o'clock in the morning. The grapes that make Van de Constance are harvested here on the Klein Constantia estate in late February. But I'm still none the wiser as to why winemaker Matt Day has arranged to meet me at this ungodly hour. Matt, why have you brought me out here at 4 in the morning?
So we can get this beautiful grapes in as soon as possible. We're trying to keep everything nice and cold.
Yeah.
Use the freshness of the morning to preserve the fruit itself.
And how does that make a difference when you get the wine, well, the grapes into the winery?
Well, we only have one chance every year to do this, and we want to respect the fruit. So by keeping it nice and cold, it slows down all those metabolic actions.
And do you have to get up every morning at 4?
Every morning, but I love it. One thing we haven't seen yet is the sunrise. It makes it all special and all worth it. So.
And it feels rather surreal with all these head torches popping
Absolutely
around.
awesome,
Everyone
yeah.
chatting away. There's an intensity to the picker's process here that requires serious concentration.
At the moment, they're going bunch by bunch, and they're looking for that perfectly raisined
that
berry.
Sort of thing there.
That's pretty much it. And they'll literally take this one berry off, put it into their container, and they'll go to the next bunch. Literally, they'll go through this block constantly. As soon as they finish, they kind of start again. But we want that perfection when it comes to making this wine.
It's an extraordinary process. Presumably, this is exactly the way people did it 200 years ago.
For sure.
Hello.
Joe, this is Fleurs.
Fleurs, nice to meet you. Now then, so Fleurs is picking here.
Yeah.
Which ones is he going for?
Look, this is actually a beautiful bunch.
This is amazing. I'm gonna have a go at something like this. Even when I'm picking this, I mean, they're fully intact grapes, aren't they?
For sure. Have you tasted any of these yet?
Am I allowed?
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Right. I mean, they're so precious. I did like a raisin.
Yeah, but you get that very intense muscady character.
That is beautifully sweet.
That is the heart and soul behind Van de Constance.
The evidence of history is everywhere. in the vines, the grapes, and the winery itself. Here to guide me through this is Hans Astrom, the managing director of Klein Constantia. Van der Constance is renowned for having a celebrity following. Both Jane Austen and Charles Dickens were great fans, often writing about the wine. The most notable figure in history to enjoy this wine was Napoleon Bonaparte. It's said the winery eased the misery of exile by shipping 30 bottles a month to St. Helena from 1815 until his death in 1821.
Who are your favourite figures from history who've enjoyed this? You're not allowed Napoleon. We know that he enjoyed it.
I mean, Casanova brought a lot about Van der Constance, which I think is quite interesting.
He's my now immediate favourite person who enjoyed it.
And we actually think that the wines we make today are very close in terms of style and taste as the wines that were made in the 18th century.
Can we have a try of some?
Absolutely.
I'll pour you some, yeah.
This is the bit I'm really excited about.
So this is the 2009 Van der Constance.
I think it's just an amazing colour straight away. Actually, I'm sitting in St. Helena being very depressed about losing the Battle of Waterloo at the moment, you know.
That's why it's 30 bottles a month.
And I can imagine how that cheered him up. It is great wine, isn't it?
Well, I can maybe introduce you a little bit to history. Sadly, I can't give you a bottle of the vintage because we haven't got many, but you for sure will be drinking some history.
Well, even from here, I can tell it's very dark. This is something seriously old.
This is the iconic 1791.
1791?
Yeah.
I mean, this is Napoleon at his most powerful. He's sort of
Europe is
his way through
Europe is in war. You know, it's actually the period when the Dutch, the Orange family, goes to King George III. It's all yours.
It's amazingly concentrated. It's very similar. This has been the most amazing tasting that I have had. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
What an incredible day. To arrive at 4 o'clock in the morning and pick the finest Muscat grapes in Africa, recreating an astonishing historic wine. I try it and you get this window into history where I can drink the wine that people have enjoyed for hundreds of years. And then to sum it all up, I actually get to try a wine that is itself history.
A bottle that really shouldn't have survived and has lasted well over 200 years. A wine that probably did cheer somebody up when Mozart died. That's something I will never experience again and that's going to stay with me forever.